Good morning and welcome to Get Real America. I'm Brittany Brown and Bill is out on vacation. He started his Christmas vacation early, so y'all are stuck with me. This will be our last episode before we head on to Christmas break, and we will be back January 2nd. We still need your help. Make sure that you go to thelocalspin.com and you become a member. You donate. You can also advertise with us. We are kind of just hoping for the best in 2024. We do think that it will benefit you to have us here because you will be able to get a local perspective on what's going on in 2024, especially with the political season that we're currently in. I mean, if you tuned in yesterday and you've watched any news, you know that Trump was taken off the ballot in the state of Colorado, which is going to make for quite a wild ride in 2024. So we hope you will join us and you will support us. So with that being said, Bill was able to interview Buddy Carter, our congressman here in the 1st District, and he had a lot to say about what's going on in Washington and some of the things that we need to focus on moving forward.
Anything going on in Washington we need to know about?
Well, first of all, last week before we left, we in the House passed the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which of course funds our defense. The number one responsibility of the federal government is to provide for the safety of our homeland and for our citizens. That's why the NDAA is so very important. Included in that was more lethality, and that's important because we need to make sure that our weapons are going to do just that. They're going to destroy people, and that's what we need more of. Secondly, and make sure that we're going to push back on our adversaries, and that's going to be important because they're pushing back on us.
Boy, yeah, no kidding.
And thirdly, and most importantly, more than a 5% increase for our troops. Well deserved. We want to make sure that our troops are taken care of. We've got to be competitive in this workplace anymore. And in order to recruit people, we've got to be competitive in our pay as well.
Well, we keep hearing the horror stories about how all the services are having trouble recruiting right now.
Absolutely.
Is there anything, because if they're going to school and teachers are telling them we're living in a terrible country and they hear all the other, and we're sending them off to war lands, and their bad guys are shooting at us and we're not shooting back. We got problems.
That combined with the internet.
Yeah.
And let's keep in mind now, that's one thing that I'm real big on is TikTok. TikTok is owned by the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah.
Why do we allow TikTok in the United States of America? 90 minutes a day. 90 minutes a day. That's the average time that a young person is spending on TikTok. And a third of all young people are getting their news off of TikTok. And it's owned by the Chinese Communist Party. That they don't allow it on government phones. We can't have it on our government phones at the Capitol. But we allow it just on the internet. It's got to be banned.
What's the story here? You know, we always say that Republicans are great at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory here. What was the story about we kicked this guy out of Congress when he hadn't even had a trial yet?
Well, and that's a good point. Keep in mind now, Congress is self-policing. We are self-policing. We have an ethics committee. Now, some of the charges against him that were proved to be accurate and proved to be true were very egregious. And some of them, for example, he had the credit card information from a fellow member and from the fellow member's mother. And he was charging and campaign contributions to them, so much so that they exceeded their limit. Now the member and his mother are in trouble with the FCC on giving too much. Exceeding their contribution limits.
Well, let the Democrats know, by the way, that committee is available because we got one guy that's sleeping with a communist Chinese spy, and we haven't done a set in the thing.
In Congress.
Buddy, we got to get this together here.
Yeah.
What is how do you like the new speaker?
I like him a lot. Mike Johnson is a strong conservative. He's a strong Christian. He is a constitutional lawyer. Very smart young man, very articulate. Expresses himself well, and I think he represents us well. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Mike. He's a fiscal conservative too, and that's extremely important in my book.
Well, that's the truth. Of course, we hear everything. You know, we're tearing down monuments right and left, especially Confederate monuments now these days. And it shows you we're not teaching history. They're trying to take one down in Arlington at this point.
Right.
And it's not a Confederate monument, but that's what the news media is calling it.
Yeah, we've experienced that all over. I had the unfortunate experience of going to, or it was a fortunate experience to be able to go to West Point. But what I saw there was them trying to take all the Confederate soldiers away from West Point, which I think is just a travesty. That's part of our history, and it needs to remain part of our history.
Yeah, well, and how much money is it costing us to change the names of all these different bases now?
And you have to wonder if that's money well spent.
Uh-huh, exactly. But this monument is actually a reconciliation type thing. I mean, it was after the Civil War where we were coming back together. So it seems to me that somebody ought to point that out to them.
Yeah, there's been a lot of controversy, a lot of talk about it up at the Capitol.
You think we're going to be able to
I
save it?
don't know the answer to that. I thought we were going to be able to stop the renaming of a lot of our bases, but we haven't been able to yet.
I don't understand where this is coming from. And meanwhile, we keep hearing from the powers that be that there's no problem at the border.
You know, Bill, when I'm at home, people ask me about Ukraine and about the funding for Ukraine. Look, we support Ukraine. We understand they need to be successful. We cannot allow Putin to win. However, the question I get when I'm at home is how can you justify sending money and ammunition to another country to protect their border when we're not protecting our border? And I'll be quite honest with you, I don't have an answer to that. That's why we in the House have made it clear that if we're going to send more aid to Ukraine to protect their border, we had to have policy changes and money flowing to our border to protect our border.
You mentioned the weaponry earlier. There's a report of something. If we went to war right now, we only have enough ammunition to fight for 2 weeks. We've got we've got to get our arsenal built
We
back
do
up.
have to get our arsenal, and keep in mind that's what we've been primarily sending to Ukraine. Everybody thinks, oh, you approved $16 billion. Well, $16 billion of arsenals, and we're actually replenishing our arsenal as we send them the weapons.
Yeah, well, that's we need some sort of a Manhattan Project to get that underway.
Sure.
Oh, and finally, about you got a Christmas message to our constituents here?
Yeah, I tell you, you know, I tell people all the time, 435 districts in the United States, and I get the honor and privilege of representing the very best women. We're so blessed on the coast of Georgia and so blessed in the first district. We have so much to be thankful for. Strong military presence, strong ag presence, strong forestry presence, Georgia ports, all. We got Hyundai on the way. We're growing by leaps and bounds, so we just have a lot to be thankful for.
Somebody mentioned the Hyundai that we don't want electric vehicles.
Well, what we want is a choice.
Yes.
That's what we want.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it, sir. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
Are you as surprised as I am as all the anti-Semitism that's going on here?
Not only am I surprised, but I'm disappointed. We had a teletown hall last night, and we had one of the local rabbis was on there. There's been a 328% increase in anti-Semitism since October the 7th in this country. And a lot of that is due to these universities. That's why I'm proud that we in the Republican Party have called out some of these universities. We're going to make them stop this wokeness that they're spreading into our students.
Yeah, that hearing the other day with those three presidents was a disgrace.
It was.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Well, and that's what Buddy Carter had to say. You know, I am a little bit concerned that we did not address the FISA courts. I think that that was one thing that they should have addressed before they ever voted on that NDAA. A little disappointed in that, but this is what Congress people do. They tell you all the wonderful things they gave you, but they don't mention all the bad things they gave you when they pass a bill. Things are slowly progressing, slowly getting better in D.C. with the new speaker. I do think that we'll see them hopefully start to reduce the budget and, start to consider how they spend our money. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm a little disappointed in the fact that we're still determined to support Ukraine when most of the American people do not support it. It is a lot of money, and the taxpayer is paying for it. And the taxpayer can barely afford to pay their own bills. So I don't think that we should be giving money to foreign countries. I don't know. Could just be me. But when we get back, we will be talking about Compassion for Heroes. It's a great organization, and Bill's going to bring that story to us when we get back.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America. I'm Brittany Brown, and again, Bill is on vacation. However, he did do a story before he left on Compassion for Heroes. It's a great organization, and I think it's just important that we remember why we have this season, and it's to be grateful. And this incredible story, we were able to go down and meet David Sharp, who started this organization over the summer, and they're doing incredible things, and he's quite an incredible person. Bill, take it away.
Thank you, Brittany. I first met David Sharp about 5 years ago, and to hear his story, to say the least, was jaw-dropping. A guy who came within milliseconds of pulling a trigger on a .45 automatic, semi-automatic weapon and ending his life, like so many others of his ilk who came back broken from service overseas, especially in the Middle East. And so many of his fellow servicemen were dying around him at their own hand. He thought about it as well, but he was saved by his service dog. That inspired him to start something called Companions for Heroes. Now, there are a lot of organizations that have sprung up sort of like this since. Movies have been made about this. Movies ought to be made about David Sharp as well. He is a great businessman, and he does a great job overseeing this wonderful charity. And a few months ago, I had a chance to sit down with him at his office in Brunswick and find out exactly what the genesis of all this was.
The buildup actually started when I was on active duty. I tried to commit suicide twice with a pistol. Quite frankly, the one that my dad used in Ranger School when he went through in 1966.
Wow.
And so I was an alcoholic, a functional alcoholic on active duty. I had two friends commit suicide, one before 9/11 and then one after 9/11. And one of them had a child and a wife, and that's what did it for me. And I'm the only child, and I had no one at the time, and I was upset that, Greg took his life, who had a family, he had a son and a wife. And why not someone like me who's single, who has no one? And so, fast forward years later, we understand that that's diagnosed as survivor's guilt. When someone takes their life and you wish it was you instead of them.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't have any of that back then. So in 2002, I found myself drunk, and I took a pistol that my dad gave me from Ranger School that he had, and charged it, and I put the barrel in my mouth. And I remember, tasting that metallic taste.
This was a .45,
It was
right?
a .45 pistol. That's right. And I remember I closed my door latch to my bedroom. It's a similar setup that we are in this office today. And the bed was on the floor, bachelor pad, right? And I remember leaning up against the back of the mattress in the box spring. And I had a little pit bull rescue that I got weeks earlier. And I pushed her out and closed the door latched. I remember pulling on the knob. And I remember just sitting there crying, looking at a blank space on the wall. Put the pistol in my mouth. I start pulling the trigger, squeezing the trigger with my thumb, and in walks that little puppy. She went through the door. I mean, the door went wide open. I remember it was latched. And I said, okay. And she licked my cheek right here.
Mm-hmm.
I pulled the pistol out, laid it in my lap. She flopped down on top of it and looked up at me with these puppy dog eyes. And I was just like, what's just happened?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, what are you doing? And so a month later, I tried the same scenario. This time I pulled that door multiple times. It latched, didn't open. There was nothing broken about it. And I tried, and I put the pistol in again, and she walked in again. Same scenario. And at that moment, I didn't grow up in the church. My parents didn't put the Bible in front of me and didn't teach me anything biblically. They just taught me, do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get in trouble. Obviously, I didn't listen to them then. But in regard, I didn't really have a belief or relationship with God, in Jesus. And but at that moment, there was a strict epiphany that hit me, and I was like, man, this is a divine intervention. There's something going on here.
Yeah.
And I remember just started talking to God at 22 years of age, crying, not understanding what just happened twice in a month, trying to kill myself. And a dog both times saved my life. And so I was like, well, I'm not looking back. I got to live for her. And
Mm-hmm.
so then I, served my time, got out, and I'm watching a program about service dogs and how, they're breeding them,
Mm-hmm.
which is okay. I get that. But I said, my dog, I paid $300. I kind of trained her on my own,
Mm-hmm.
and it took months to train her. And, the specialty service dogs at the time in 2009, they said it took an average of 2 years. It cost an average of $65,000. And I was like, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, well, through a personal experience with my dog, why not try to do for others what I went through with Cheyenne at the time?
Mm-hmm.
I adopted her, didn't cost a lot, didn't take long to train, just for basic obedience stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, fast forwarding, meeting with the experts at Walter Reed, they said there's not a lot of people charities focusing on the companion dog piece, which is what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
There's already a lot of service dog going on, specialty, but they're not focusing on the mental health, is what he said.
Right.
Harvey Naranjo was his name, and he was in charge of the Military Amputee Training Center. He was an occupational therapist and an Army vet. And he said, everybody's focused on the physical piece,
Mm-hmm.
the amputees, but no one's really focusing on the mental health piece of these vets who still have their limbs. If you started this, that would be a good fit for them, and there's a lot of them. I said, great, that's all I needed to know. So I had my savings, and I spent all that. I borrowed money from my dad, right, to get it all started and going. And next thing you know, Dana Perino took an interest in us.
A few years ago on my radio show, I interviewed a gentleman who'd written a book, and one of the things that he said on there was, don't kill your future self. David has a wonderful campaign going now that is saving 2 lives, as he mentioned, the life of the dog or the cat or the comfort animal that you adopt, and then saving your own. This is such a noble, noble cause. But I think one of the most important things is of don't kill your future self is something we're told, from the folks at Thrive, who save babies from being murdered in the womb from a planned infanticide, Planned Parenthood. And that is generationally, you have killed somebody who will not have children of their own. So you've killed that crop down the line. And David has 2 beautiful children now. And they are ages of almost 12 and 8. And they wouldn't exist had he pulled that trigger either of those 2 times that he put that gun in his mouth. This goes to show, I think, is a sterling example of saying, don't kill your future self. Think about it. Things will get better. Trust in the Lord. And we celebrate his birth in just a few days. Merry Christmas. Brittany?
Thanks, Bill, for interviewing David Sharp. I think that it is just a huge testimony to you never know what the future will hold. Although we all go through dark times, we all, feel lonely. We all feel like we're in this alone. We're not. And I think it's just also a good reminder to reach out to people that maybe you have lost touch with and just make sure they know that you are here for them during this Christmas season. So when we get back, we will be talking to Jay Ratliff.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the shield since 1934. with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
What happened?
Well, when you opened up the Chewy box, you went a bit...
bonkers. That's one word for it.
I guess I blacked out. This is the best squeaky toy ever.
Probably shouldn't, but we did get you a few more gifts.
Honey.
Ooh, there's more.
Chewy's prices were so great.
You don't need to explain yourself, Linda. Keep on saving.
Pets aren't just pets. They're more.
Well, I hope I got a leaf blower this year.
You got a turtleneck.
Unwrap the excitement this holiday season with great deals from Chewy.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America. We have Jay with us this morning to talk all things travel up in the skies. So, Jay, we're hearing that there's a ton of complaints going into the DOT. Tell us more about that.
In fact, we've talked for some time, and it's a soapbox I've been on for a number of years about people complaining to airlines. When you complain to an airline, many times you can be ignored and they won't respond. The easiest and best way for us to complain when something happens, customer service wise or what have you, is to go to the Department of Transportation, dot.gov. I've talked about it for a number of years. I've really made it a kind of a priority. Anytime I'm on Fox News or any of the other national shows, I'm reminding everyone, go to dot.gov to file your complaint. When we do, the Department of Transportation takes that complaint. They go to the airline and say, we've got this complaint from this person. Please respond and copy us in on your response, and please do it in the next 30 days. An airline can ignore you and I. They're not going to ignore the Department of Transportation. And I can tell you from decades in the airline industry with Northwest, we hated DOT complaints because it took up time to research, to review, to respond. It was a pain in the neck. And I looked at the numbers in 2014, several years ago. The DOT received 15,000 complaints from consumers about various situations. Now, the next year, it was, let's say it went down a little bit. The DOT would then say, well, the service for airlines is getting better because the complaints are going down. Of course, I'm in the background beating my head against the wall saying, how can we use this as a barometer when most people don't even know you can complain to the DOT? So more and more people are picking up on this. And the DOT announced that they've received in the first 6 months twice as many complaints as they have received last year. So the numbers are up a lot. In fact, in all of last year, we had 47,591 complaints. They're expecting twice that this year. We could see 100,000 complaints going into the DOT. Now, what makes that significant is the Department of Transportation and the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. Those are the two bodies that hold airlines accountable. So the more we provide feedback on how we're being treated, the better the government will be to make sure that the airlines are doing what they should be doing. So we can actually control how well or how bad we're being treated by using the dot.gov whenever we've got a complaint. I don't care if it's a complaint today or from a year ago. You can go to dot.gov, provide your 6-digit confirmation number, file the complaint, and boom, see what happens.
So why do you think that the DOT is getting so many more complaints? Do you think that things have gotten that much worse on the airlines?
Well, I think a lot of people are listening to you and I. We're going to give credit here because now people know what to do. And my airline friends, oh, good Lord. If I'm on a national show and radio or TV and I mention dot.gov repeatedly for complaints, they'll call, text, email, Jay, shut up, stop it. But What I'm telling you is look, if you treated us better, I'll shut up. But you treat us horrible. You know that. Airlines treat us like cattle. I mean, if you get customer service in a day, you got lucky, go buy a lottery ticket because it happens on accident. So to me, yeah, if the airlines mess up, and look, if your flight's late by a few minutes, don't complain. If the flight attendant stepped on your foot, don't complain. And if it's something that's minor, okay, but some of these are not minor and people are just blowing it off. No, be sure to hold the airlines accountable when they don't do what they're supposed to do. And sometimes you have a flight that's canceled where the airline offers you like a few thousand frequent flyer miles or a little voucher thinking that's going to do it. Well, sometimes they should have done more and they're hoping we take what they give us. Now, if we go to the DOT is going to say, no, wait a minute. No. You need to be giving them more than this, and you know it, so take care of it. That's one of the reasons when Southwest Airlines had the meltdown a year ago, where for an entire week, their computer system just melted because it was an outdated computer system. They canceled 16,900 flights. They inconvenienced and stranded more than 2 million people, 2 million people coast to coast. We had the Department of Transportation come out and fine them $140 million for that.
Oh my gosh.
Now, a lot of that stemmed from them being notified by consumers what was going on. And that's one of the reasons that this fine was 30 times higher, 30 times higher than any of the previous fine given to an airline. A lot of that can be attributed to more and more people understanding, go to the Department of Transportation to complain, because then the government's got a very clear picture of just how bad things are, and it gives them a little bit more ammunition when they're trying to hold airlines accountable. So, yeah, if I could make up T-shirts, hats, and bumper stickers, I would do it. But DOT.gov is something I continue to talk about.
I love it. Well, and you mentioned Southwest Airlines. They're in the news for several reasons. One of the reasons I'm hoping we can get to in just a minute, the customer of size, I was hoping we could chat about. And also, it looks like they've maybe made a deal with the airline pilots. And do you think they're going to take it?
I hope so. It's a $12 billion deal. It's on the table for 5 years. And Southwest pilots had this agreement in principle with Southwest Airlines. They've been working on this for 5 or 6 years. So hopefully the board of directors today is going to meet with some of the union officials. They'll hash out some of the remaining details. They'll put it before the pilots, and hopefully the 10 or 11,000 pilots will vote on it and approve it and move on. Because a lot of these pilots, the pilot unions made it clear, if we don't get what we need, we'll go on strike. They've watched United, Delta, American, all these other pilots reach deals with the pilot, with the management. And Southwest has been saying, hey, when's our turn? I mean, we need to get this worked out. So hopefully this is good news that within the last 12 to 15 hours has been breaking. And I'm thrilled because the pilots, when they start talking about going on strike, causes a lot of people to get very, very concerned. So if we get this deal done, all they've got to do now is work out an agreement with the flight attendants, which I think they'll do in short order. And then we can put all this strike talk behind us.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good thing. Southwest seems to always be making the news. This customer of size. What do you know about this? And I mean, could this turn into a fiasco for Southwest Airlines?
Well, it's going to go one of two ways. They've never done it before. And what they're saying is that if you are a customer of size, plus size, where, one seat's not enough, typically what happens, let's say we've got an NFL football player, just a big, big guy, shows up at the airport, and obviously one little airline seat's not going to make it for him. So he would typically have to buy 2 seats. That way he can put the armrest up, take 2 seats, and be more comfortable. So that means the seating configuration on Southwest is 3 seats, the aisle 3 seats. He would be on one side taking up 2 seats, and he'd have 1 seat next to him, be it either the window or the aisle. Southwest and other airlines typically had charged people of size that were just, big boned or just, larger individuals with for more money, 150 or 200% for them to take up that extra seat. Southwest has decided that if there's a customer of size, they're going to give them that second seat free. So what would happen would be if let's say that I was a plus size passenger and one seat wasn't going to be big enough for me, I would approach the gate agent and say, look, I'd like to take advantage of your customer of size policy. And the gate agent would be able to determine, yeah, you're going to need more than one seat. We'll give you a second seat for free. We'll allow you to pre-board so you can take any seat or any remaining seat, put this card in the seat next to you indicating it's taken. So that way you can have the room that you need as far as 2 seats or even 3 seats if needed. And we're not going to charge you for those additional seats if needed. Now, this is totally different from what the other airlines are doing because Southwest isn't charging them extra for the second or third seat. So it's a great thing to do. They're putting customers ahead of profits. Thank you very much for that. They're doing what Southwest tends to do typically. And then, of course, the question is, hey, Jay, are other airlines going to follow suit? No, because other airlines are revenue driven. They don't care about people. They're going to make as much money as they can. So even though this is a policy that's going to give Southwest Airlines a lot of great publicity, I will be shocked. I will fall in the floor, down on the floor, if I see any other airline say, you know what? Who cares about profits? Let's go ahead and institute this policy because it will cost them thousands of seats a day if they do this. And as a result, it's going to cost them profits. And I simply don't see other airlines doing it. But as far as Southwest, hats off. Great job. I'm glad that they're doing it.
So I guess my question is, if someone needs 2 or 3 seats to get on the getting on the plane, that's a very small aisleway. So I'm just wondering, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like they may have to start configuring these planes differently if they're going to start accommodating these plus size people. It just seems kind of.
Yeah. Well, the numbers of these plus size people percentage wise are small. So if you've got somebody, a lot of times they'll turn sideways if they've got to move down the aisle so that they can kind of squeeze in there. Plus, they can sit up in the first few rows so they don't have far to walk. The concern is obviously, okay, if there's an emergency evacuation, can this person get off the plane in 90 seconds or less? If they can't, that's a problem. But because everybody's got to be able to get off the plane in 90 seconds or less in an emergency situation. But there's so few passengers that fall into that category. Airlines are really not going to make any major changes. They're certainly not going to change the size of seats. No way, because those seats are revenue. And many of those revenue seats, as they can cram into those silver revenue tubes, that's what they're going to do. Because the whole idea is make money as much as you can, get those planes in the air, operate as many flights a day as you can, and try to make as much money as possible. Because it surprises a lot of people when they look at this and they're told that airlines might make $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 profit on a given flight. And you think, gee, the flight's full. Yeah. But the cost of operating the flight, absent the fees or the fares that we pay or the fuel prices, what we pay for employees, gate space, landing space, all the costs that go into it, the profits are very, very small when you look at it. But when you multiply that by, let's say, 800 airplanes that operate 4,000 flights a day, oh, yeah, that adds up real fast. But you've got to get those planes up in the air and maximize the revenue on any given departure. And that's one of the reasons airlines are very reluctant to change the policy. And certainly something like this as Southwest Airlines has done.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this works out for Southwest and if it creates any issues for them moving forward.
What if you're a passenger that is a bit claustrophobic, so you need 2 seats? It's a medical condition. Are they going to be given 2 seats?
I think that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
They're opening the door here for like other people that may have medical issues that would require that. So are they going to accommodate them? And we're kind of starting to go down that path of the emotional support animal, where once that door is open, look out. People are bringing their hedgehog, their pet spider, pet snake, all that stuff on board an airplane. And I don't want to go down that road again.
No, definitely not. Well, I also think like we live in a really crazy time too, where people are like, well, I identify as being obese, or you know what I mean? I think that there's all sorts of craziness that can happen with opening the door to some of these policies.
Well, you're right. I weigh more now than I did when I was 8 years old, so I need a bigger seat. Well, of course you do, but you know, it's just a matter of and in the, yeah, if I identify somebody that's much larger than I am, is that going to work to my advantage to board a plane early and take 2 or 3 seats? I don't know. I would hate to be a gate agent for Southwest, but look, I've had to have those conversations with people. When they would check in, it was obvious they weren't going to fit into a seat, and you have to pull them off to the side, and have a very delicate conversation where you tell them, these seats are getting smaller, sadly, because airlines, try to cram us in here, and you're a passenger that just you have big bones, whatever, however you want to word it, and you're simply not going to be comfortable in one seat. So therefore, it's going to require a second seat for you to be comfortable. And it's not fair, but that's what has to happen. And that's when you have the discussion with them where it could cost them 150 or 200% from a fare standpoint. And it's never a conversation that you look forward to having. But most people that have flown understand that, and they recognize it. And look, these seats, if you could sit in an airplane from the 1970s or 80s in coach, and then compare it to what is today, where the seats are smaller and the rows are more closely together. I mean, you start to get claustrophobic, even if you were never claustrophobic before, because you think, gosh, I mean, there's no room on these things. Yep. And they continue to get smaller.
Well, and also a lot of these flights are full now. Like they cram these flights so full that it's like, is there an available seat for someone at a certain point too? It's been a long time since I've been on a flight that isn't sold out.
They are, and the thing is, the next 2 weeks, we're talking about the busy holiday travel season, Christmas into the year, and we've got 40-some thousand flights that are going to be in the air tomorrow. Same today. Airlines are cramming more people into these flights to try to keep up with the demand, and it's nuts. And we no longer enjoy travel; we endure it. Just get me there. It's like going to the dentist. It's just, let's just get this over with. Instead of being able to enjoy the wonders, the beauty, the romance of travel, it's kind of oh crap, let's get this over because of just the misery you go through. Sherry and I have a home in Savannah there and one here in Ohio. And before we were just thinking we just fly back and forth. Allegiant's got a nonstop flight and that's perfect. 90 minutes and we're there. But it is such a hassle that we tend to normally Colorado and boom, off we go. We'll just drive it. Because it's no longer something that we enjoy, and it just becomes an issue. So a lot more people are doing that where they're flying less, but it's never going to get better. And as sad as this next statement is, it's scary. 10 years from now, 20, we could look back at these as the good old days.
Oh, that is scary.
That'd be a bad thought.
Yes. Well, so with the holiday season upon us, what delays do you see and what recommendations do you have with people traveling the next 2 weeks?
Well, if you're going to be flying today, look out for San Francisco. They're the problem child. We've had bad weather there the last 2 days, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of flights being impacted. That's really the only travel issue of the day. But certainly keep an eye on the forecast as you're traveling the next couple of weeks. And by all means, get to the airport at least 2 hours before departure. Now, Savannah spoils us. I've flown out of there a lot of times, obviously, to different parts of the country. The wait times are short. The people do a great job. The airlines have enough people. I mean, it really works out well. But you never know. I mean, there can always be a problem where there's a computer issue that slows down things at the check-in process or what have you. And that's why you want to be through security at least 2 hours before departure. Go grab some ice cream or something down there, rocking chair, whatever. Just sit and relax because 30, 40 minutes before departure, they're going to start boarding that airplane. And what folks need to understand when you're traveling, just because you have a 7 a.m. departure doesn't mean you have until 7 a.m. to get there. You could go strolling in there about 6:50 and find the plane gone. And you're going to say, wait a minute, that can't be. The flight leaves at 7 o'clock. No. That's the scheduled departure time. But part of our conditions of contract between us and the airline says we have to be at the gate of departure at least 20 minutes before departure. And if we're not, our seats can be given away. So if you cut it close, especially on an originating flight, you're running the risk of missing your flight altogether. So don't take that chance. People that have bought these tickets 7, 8, 9 months ago, don't play the game of let's see how close we can cut.
And I will tell you,
one of the things that drives me, you go to Six Flags they won't say a word about standing in line 3 hours to ride a 2-minute ride.
Yeah.
They'll bear in the middle of the heat of July. They don't care. But you ask them to get to an airport for a flight 2 hours before departure, and they're like, "Man, are you crazy? No way!" Please don't cut it close, because if you miss your flight, the next available flight that has seats maybe 3 or 4 days away. So please don't cut it close. Please, 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 please.
Yeah, well, it's a crazy time of year, so make sure you do get to the airport early. Do you have any last words of 2024, what you expect to see in the airline industry?
Boy, a lot of things
Any
I'd
predictions?
like to see, that's for sure. But, well, I think we're going to see more airline consolidations. I think we're going to see some low-cost carriers gobbled up by some of the larger carriers. I think that's going to happen. And I don't want to see it, because that means fewer seats. Fewer seats means higher fares. Sadly, we're seeing an increased number of near misses because of some air traffic control and airline pilot issues. And I'm just praying that we don't have any accidents going into the new year, because we're seeing a lot more of these types of situations occur. So that is a huge concern for me. But really, it's going to be down to how the airlines are going to be able to adapt to the coming year. We're going to see more international flights because the international travel is coming back. Airlines make more of a profit through international travel than they do the yield or profit on a domestic flight. So we're going to see a lot more of those opportunities. So if you've not flown internationally in a couple of years, you might see some good deals out there. In fact, I'd be shopping for those now, because if you can lock those fares in now for next summer, next fall, what's going to happen is you're going to enjoy a cheaper fare to fly. And if the fares go up between now and then, you're protected.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Jay. And I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Well, thank you for saying Christmas and saying Happy Holidays, because that's what everybody wants to say. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I agree with you, and keep up the good work.
Thanks so much, Jay. Have a good day, and we'll see you in January.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America. I'm Brittany Brown, and love having Jay on the show. I think it's always interesting to hear the travel shenanigans going on around the country, especially this time of year when it's so busy. And excited to see how that whole Southwest thing plays out. I think it might come back to bite them in the butt, but we shall see. With the Christmas season upon us, I think that sometimes we forget why we celebrate Christmas. There's been this whole Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays thing that we've been arguing about for, it seems like 2 decades. And I think that they've been really good at changing how we utilize words, including during the Christmas season. I think it's important for us to look at why we celebrate Christmas.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. You probably know what happens next. But do you know who wrote this poem and when? Do you know where the tradition of the Christmas tree comes from? Lights on the Christmas tree, stockings, even the idea of gift giving. No holiday has a richer and more varied tradition than Christmas. So let's look into its history and see if we can uncover some of that richness and tradition. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, well, at least you'll have a better appreciation of why so many people do. Here's what everybody knows. Christmas is when Christians celebrate the birthday of Jesus Christ. That in itself is a very big deal. Christianity, in all its many iterations, remains the most popular religion in the world. 2 billion people follow it. Aside from its obvious religious significance, the first Christmas stands as the great divide for the recording of human history. Until recently, history was divided between BC, before Christ, and AD, Anno Domini, which is Latin for Year of Our Lord. Now you'll often see BCE, before the Common Era, and CE, Common Era. No matter, the divide is still Jesus' birth. The great kings of the first millennium recognized the significance of the day and attached themselves to it. Charlemagne, Alfred the Great, and William the Conqueror, among many others, were either baptized or coronated on December 25th. The idea of Christmas as a time of gift-giving also goes back to the earliest days of Christianity. The story is told that a 3rd century church bishop, Nicholas, would anonymously throw bags of gold coins into the windows of the poor. The coins supposedly landed in the shoes or stockings that were drying by the fireplace. Thus was the stocking stuffer born. After Nicholas died and was declared a saint, his popularity and positive Christmas message spread across Europe, each nation adding its own distinct contribution. In Germany, the winter tradition of placing evergreens in their homes took on a new significance in the 16th century when Protestant reformer Martin Luther put candles in the branches. He told his children the lights were like the sky above Bethlehem on the night of Christ's birth. The idea that St. Nicholas would judge whether you've been good or bad during the year stems from the book of Revelation in the New Testament, which depicts Christ returning to earth riding a white horse. In the Middle Ages, the legend sprang up that St. Nicholas had been chosen as the Savior's advance guard. He wouldn't come at the end of the world, but every year to check things out and give a report. When this notion arrived in Norway, it encountered a problem. There were no horses in Norway, but they did have plenty of reindeer. And of course, Norway abuts the Arctic Circle and the North Pole, so St. Nick found himself with a new domicile. All these various European traditions came together in the great melting pot of America. In New York, in 1823, a professor at the Protestant Episcopal Seminary, Clement Moore, wrote a poem for his children. 'Twas the night before Christmas. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The poem caught on and became a Christmas staple every school child could recite. The holiday got another push in 1843 when the great British writer Charles Dickens published his short novel, A Christmas Carol. The redemption of Ebenezer Scrooge perfectly captured what we now refer to as the Christmas spirit, the idea that the holiday brings out the best in all of us. As the new century turned, Hollywood got into the act. Almost as soon as there were movies celebrating Christmas. To this day, a year doesn't go by without a new one. Madison Avenue saw a big opportunity too. In 1931, Coca-Cola hired artist Haddon Sundblom to create a Christmas ad of Santa Claus, which is Dutch for St. Nicholas, drinking Coke. The jolly white bearded fellow in a bright red suit remains the personification of old St. Nick. And in perfect melting pot fashion, Irving Berlin, the son of a rabbi, wrote the definitive Yuletide song, White Christmas. Many complain today that the religious aspect of Christmas has been overwhelmed by commerce. Retail sales between Thanksgiving and Christmas are now $1 trillion. This is not a new complaint. The Puritans refused to celebrate Christmas because they thought it trivialized the holiday's religious message. But this remains the minority view. Most people love Christmas and all the things, the lights, the tree, the songs, the movies, and yes, the gifts that come with it. And who can deny that people tend to act a little nicer, a little happier as the special day draws near? In a world that feels so divided, Christmas still unites us. For that, we should all be grateful. I'm William Federer, author of There Really Is a Santa Claus for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To help keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Wow, I love the PragerU videos. I think that they do a really good job of explaining things and giving you history in less than 5 minutes. So I appreciate them making those videos free. Make sure you donate to PragerU if you have not. They do incredible work. But don't forget about us. We do need your help as we wrap up this year. We're reflecting on all the challenges that, we're experiencing in this country, that we've experienced just doing this show. And we hope that you guys will support us moving into the new year. Go to thelocalspin.com. You can become a member. You can donate to us. You can also advertise with us. And I mean, we have a better circulation than the local paper here. And I think that speaks volumes to what we've been able to create in such a short amount of time. And we hope that you guys will continue to support us. Make sure, if maybe you can't donate money, make sure to like and share our show and tell everyone that thinks need to hear this perspective. Tell them about us. Go to thelocalspin.com again and support us. And as we head into the home stretch going into Christmas, we leave you with Veritas and their choir. They do a really great job, and Bill was there to get this footage for us. So Merry Christmas to all of you guys. Happy New Year, and we will see you guys in January.